Well, when you take away, what do you think the public's going to grade, how they react to the speech overall? Do you think have any impact?
I think the average guy who's really struggling, and particularly people out of work or have to put their kids through college, are saying, "What are we doing in Libya?"
Right. And how does this work with the administration when as you pointed out, the defense secretary saying Libya is not of vital interest to the United States?
That's right. And she tried to shut him up. Hillary did and Meet the Press.
Yeah, I saw that.
She chimed right in and cut him off and said, "Well, we do have interest." Because she wants to go down. This is her war,
Her war, but yeah, we talked about this last week too, the disconnect between people in the military, what they think and what they need to actually win, the politicians who just want to get elected, and then they have the third group, just your average person sitting at home trying to pay the grocery bill and the gas.
Exactly.
That's what they're worried about at home. It's information overload for the average American right now.
I mean, also, there are so many lessons in history. I mean, the most obvious being the Roman Empire, but it's replete. History is replete with it. I'm a great reader of Alexander the Great, and I know a lot of other people are too, but all you have to do is read the story of Alexander the Great, and these giant occupations have an end. These nations have a shelf life, and it's usually with corruption and overspending and overspreading your troops. And where God knows, we're all over the place now.
So what happens if another country comes up and we see that there's a humanitarian crisis there? Let's say in the next few months. Let's say to the point where it's boiling over, to the point where we can't turn our backs and say we can't ignore this, and it's really getting horrible, and the people are dying there. What happens next? Is the Obama administration going to say, okay, now it's time for us to intervene there too?
Depends on what his polls say.
Okay.
It depends on what his polls say.
Well,
and
and this year, with the races on, it definitely
nothing is going to be done this year from here on out that's not going to be with the 2012 election in mind.
Well, if that's the case, then they must be reading the polls. People are saying, okay, go forward with Libya. I mean, if they're
what people were saying, I don't know what they're saying this morning, but what they were definitely saying before is, come on, where's the president? What's going on? Let's hear from him.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, that's a valid point. 10 days after the fact, he does speak.
That's right. He does. By the way, he doesn't even tell you why he didn't speak. I didn't hear it.
No, he didn't. But and you and I disagree on this. But I still think that we're all conveniently just dismissing the fact that we had a lot of Americans that were there that I believe we had to be quiet about until we got them out.
It's interesting.
Oh, I think I don't disagree with that. You mean people who would be commando type people who need to...
Well, yeah, everybody that we wanted to get out. I mean, the president was very quiet. He was very criticized.
Oh, I think so too, yeah. I read a story this morning saying now that Italy is supposedly involved in preparing an exit route for Mr. Gaddafi.
So, okay, an exit route for Mr. Gaddafi.
He'll be living in Rome, no doubt, in splendor.
The fact that this guy survives and continues on for a while, what impact do you think that's going to have on the policy and how we are perceived in the United States?
Well, they don't want to kill anybody. We don't kill people anymore. We have kinetic wars. We have troops in Afghanistan who have to call through several levels in order to get clearance to shoot. I mean, we don't kill people anymore. There's nothing wrong with killing somebody like Gaddafi, but liberals just can't do it. It just somehow, they're not built for it.
Remember the stories that came out about Osama bin Laden on Clinton's watch?
We couldn't do that either. Good example.
And there were people who were ready to pull the switch
right
there, and they were calling the White House, and they were saying, we've got him, let's do it, and
that's right.
They couldn't do it.
That's exactly right.
And it was really amazing.
They don't know how to kill people.
So okay, if Gaddafi stays on like this, do you think it can be seen that the United States has been effective in its efforts to try to, have a positive impact by getting this guy to calm down, to get him, to stop killing his people?
He's a nut.
That's my point.
He's never going to calm down. That's never going to happen. If Gaddafi doesn't go, we lose there. If Gaddafi sticks around, we lost.
John McCain is comparing the situation as to what happened during the first Gulf War. Is that a valid criticism?
In what way?
With Saddam Hussein staying on, they didn't get him, at that time when the first Gulf War happened.
That's right.
They just stopped right outside Baghdad before going through. And
remember, he tried to kill his father, and I think that was a real impetus.
Yes, sure, but the fact right after that first, we just stopped. We didn't go after him. And
well, that was part of the Vietnam.
We had no-fly zone in place.
Yeah,
we had the sanctions in place, and nothing happened.
Everybody was talking about Vietnam then. Still, will they ever stop?
That's a good point.
And they really were talking, and it was like, well, we're only going to go this far, you know. And now, of course, it's just the reverse. Now we're Roman emperors. I mean.
I know, but the reference to Vietnam, I'm not sure I understand how you're...
Well, they were using that so as to stay in Kuwait and not go forward.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so John McCain's saying we had 10 more years of Saddam Hussein, and we just had to live with that, and it showed that our policy was ineffective overall. And he's saying that Gaddafi should take great comfort in the speech that he heard last night from the president. Do you think that's a fair argument at this point? Gaddafi has nothing to worry about, right?
I don't really believe that he has nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
I think that there's some people who would like to take him out.
Sure,
I think there's
would.
some people from the United States that
sure
would, whether
they
they say it out loud or not. But, you know, we're not going to say it out loud. I hope he goes. If he doesn't go, it's a complete loss for us there.
And I think he's probably very concerned about all the gold bullion that he has there. You know, he has, I forgot the title, the number amount, but I mean, it's like hundreds of billions of dollars in gold in gold bullion, and of course the price of gold just keeps going up, and he can stay there a long time with that kind of money, unless
as long as he's surrounding himself and protected.
Yeah, unless the mercenaries are.
Yeah, and
of course, who can he trust?
Well, he's paying the people that he can trust right now. I would be a little bit nervous about that, but the intelligence game that goes on behind the curtain that we never get to see, it's always going on.
That's right.
Yeah, all right. Well, we're going to obviously keep close tabs on what's taking place there in Libya. It's something that's going to be occupying our time for quite a while, I would imagine. We're going to shift gears now a bit.